went to school in Michigan and I got into uni, the major that I registered for was law, because everybody said, oh, you argue so well, you should be a lawyer. I was like, okay, fine, I'll go be a lawyer. But I found myself dozing. In the first day of classes, I was like, this is so boring. It was so, even the professor was looking at me like, on the first day, come on, man. It was boring, and I knew that I wanted to study communication, so I went and changed my major. I didn't tell my family for like 2 years, and so they thought I was studying law. Eventually, I just said, look, I sent a long letter to my dad. It was an email actually, and I explained how I do not want to be unhappy when I'm working and stuff, and I felt like communication is my thing because I'm a people person. I like to talk and interact, and law is just boring. Yes, so they pretty much called like a family meeting on the phone. My grandma called me a couple of times trying to get me to change my mind, because the media at that point, I think people just had the wrong impression. People would think that ladies in the media, there was this stereotype that they don't get married, or they either end up with politicians or musicians, and they were really, really worried. But I told them I'll be fine. So I eventually graduated with a degree in communication, came back to Nigeria, and I was posted NYSC. I was posted at NTA in VI. So there I was like a production assistant, helping them with stories and stuff like that. Eventually I started working on stories of my own, and I did a couple of stories for Nationwide News, for Newsline, and so on and so forth. So they really liked it. I mean, people would be watching the news and they'll call and be like, oh, I just heard Gbemi's name now. She was the reporter who did this and that. I think they really liked that. What's up, Gbemi here on the Drive Time Show, The Beat 99.9 FM. What went down at Oriental last night, I was giving you all the gist. Just keep listening to the Drive Time Show. I'm here till 9 o'clock. I started to take radio seriously, I think a few months. I mean, the first month I thought, okay, this is just, but they started to give me more and more responsibilities. There was a time Dan had to leave. I think he had to go on leave or something, and so they left me alone in the studio. So I was freaking out. I was like 20 years old, and you left me in charge of the morning show that millions of people are listening to. I was like, okay, this is serious. These people actually think I can do this. Okay, let's see how this goes. And I started to get better and more comfortable with being on radio and talking to people. And because the kind of person I am, I'm very, take me as I am, straight to the point. So I think I kind of shocked a lot of people, because ladies on radio at that point in time were supposed to be, you're supposed to sound sexy and, be the nice little sidekick that would agree with everything that the co-host was saying. But I would come and argue with him on air and tell him what I felt, and, I was very sarcastic. So at first people were like, who is this girl? And who's this? At the end of the day, it was just me being me. I wasn't, forming any accents or anything. I was just Gbemi, telling you like it is, talking like I was talking to my friends, and that's how. And so eventually they gave me my own show on the weekends, and eventually I got my own show during the day. Gbemi grew up in Surulere, Lagos. I'm the first child out of 3. Only girl, and I went to school in Surulere for primary school, Pampas Private School. Went to Nigerian Navy Secondary School and also Queen's College. So yeah, and then after SSC went to the States and spent another year in high school there again. That's a long story. And then got into university at Oakland University in Rochester, Michigan. So yeah. The radio industry in Nigeria has definitely evolved. When I first started, radio presenters were only heard and not seen. Now brands realize that we're influencers and people listen to us and they take us seriously. So they have started to involve us in different things, whether it's events, whether it's campaigns. I was probably the first first female radio personality to get an endorsement, to endorse a product, to be on billboards and do photo shoots, and when it comes to endorsing a brand, and then so many different brands started to come. That's one thing. So you can also do stuff outside of radio. I also MC events, so radio presenters are like most of them MC events. They do cameos in music videos now, and people know who they are. And thanks to the internet, you know, you have social media. That also helps. So you're not just a radio personality now, you're just pretty much a media personality, because many of us have crossed over into TV. Many of us are doing things online as well. And that really has helped. That's boosted, as in, the profile of radio presenters. Being in this industry for almost 10 years and doing a weekday show that's pretty much 5 days a week, I try to listen to everyone. First of all, I listen to people from other radio stations and just learn from them as well. I listen to how well they do what they do, and also learn from their mistakes. I also record my shows and I listen to my show and, you know, correct myself. That's one thing that I do. I listen to OAPs from other countries. Thank God for the internet, so I can tune in and actually listen. I listen to Angie Martinez. I think from when I was really young, I really developed a love for radio, because there were times where we'd be at home and there'd be nothing to do but listen to the radio anyways. And that was when stations like Ray Power and Rhythm started coming. I used to listen to Keke and D1 and listen to so many people, and it was just, I think I love music so much. I would actually sit there with my little tape thing and record when the top 40 was on. I think it was Rick D's, it was some American countdown they used to play, and it was cool. Now during my NYSC, I discovered that my day would not start until like 12 noon. Because that was just how it worked over there. So what I did is I told my dad that I'd like to get a part-time job at School FM. And so I sent an application in and they brought me on as an intern. So I was an intern in the news department. I would look for news stories on the internet, edit the stories, and so on. And then one day I went to drop the news bulletin in the studio and I started talking to Dan Foster. And we were just having a conversation. I started asking him questions about how he was finding Nigeria, because at that point he had been in Nigeria for almost 10 years. And, you know, he thought I was an interesting person, quote unquote, and he said, oh, sit down here and here are headphones. So yeah, we're going to do the show together today. I was like, okay. That was my first time ever meeting him or speaking to him. And then the next day I went back to my usual news department, but he came to look for me. I said, no, we're doing the show together from now on. And so that's how I got into radio, and I found that I really liked it, and I actually preferred it to TV at that point. Gbemi here on the Drive Time Show, the Beat 99.9. What's up? What's going on? Thank God it is Friday. It is 5:23. What are you doing this weekend? Make sure you catch the play, the closer. It's taking place at the Muson Center. Get your tickets there. I know there's a show for 2 p.m., 4 p.m., and there's also, I believe, a 7 p.m. So make sure you go out, have fun this weekend. Whatever you do, don't drink and drive and all that good stuff. Whatever it is you end up doing, hey, turn up as much as you want. So they eventually gave me my own show on the weekends. I started doing my own show on the weekends, and eventually I got my own show on the weekdays, which is a big deal in radio. The weekday shows are more listened to, I'd say, than weekends, over here anyway. So I guess I was like, okay, this is for real, okay, let's do this. I think it's just being yourself, being creative, being just in the know, what's going on with so-and-so artists. Also, I think maintaining relationship with the artist also helps. Not that I have to be the artist's best friend or anything, but in a way so that they feel comfortable coming to you. If some artist has some big news that they need to tell and they call you and they tell you, I want it to be on your show, I mean, that's a boost for you as well. So it's just trying to be as on point as possible at all times. For upcoming artists, first of all, I think that they need to, when they record the music, they need to not just take the word of their friends and family or whoever it is that they're working with for it. Play it for complete strangers if you can. Test it at clubs, test it at bars, whatever the case may be. Just watch people's reaction to your music. A lot of people were like, who is this girl? Who's this mouthy girl? I was just very, I don't care what you think, this is my opinion, and if you don't like it, well, that's too bad. That sort of thing. I came off very, very bold, very confident. Some would say very, very arrogant almost, but it wasn't like that. It was just more of, look, I'm just gonna be myself. and this is how I am. Eventually people got to know that, they got to appreciate that, because as more and more people got into radio, you got people who would start to put on airs and who would pretend to be what they're not. And I think that the fact that I would come and just speak, and the same way I am when I'm off air is the same I am on air, for example, with my friends. I would just imagine that I was talking to a room full of my friends and we're just gisting and just hanging out. So I was very relaxed, very laid back, at the same time very real. And I think people still appreciate that till now. I think that a good radio OAP, a lot of people think that, oh, you have to have a nice voice. I mean, you should have a voice that won't annoy people too much. But I think what's important is that you need to be someone who is interested in almost everything. And you have to know a little bit about everything. You don't have to know, you don't have to be an authority on everything, but just be interested and be aware of what's happening, current affairs, whether it's entertainment, whether it's politics, sports, things like that. You also need to know music and really have an open mind when it comes to music, because you're not going to like every song that you come across, but you need to not go on air and just kill someone's career by saying, no, I hate this song, but here, have it. You know, I think you need to be interested in music, entertainment, be an all-rounder pretty much, and you have to go out and socialize as well. I was not the most social person for the first couple of years when I got into radio, but now radio has evolved in Nigeria to the point where you can't just sit behind the mic and when it goes off you go home. No, you have to socialize, network, meet people, just because everything, you draw inspiration from everything, from your everyday life, from what you see on the road, what you see outside, issues affecting people around you and things like that. So I think you just have to be someone who is like a sponge. You need to gather information and also disseminate the information, so that, and be interested in music. I can't imagine a radio person not being interested in music, and all types of music. There's so many milestones, I can't even pinpoint and say one particular one, but I think that getting to speak with people that I would not necessarily have access to if I were working in, say, a bank. No offense to anybody who works at a bank, for example. I've been able to speak with prominent people, from politicians to international celebrities to celebrities from Nigeria. I mean, when somebody like Asha calls you and says, we're not like we're friends or anything, or like we're not close, but she calls you and she says, I have a new album and I want to play it on your show. I want you to interview me. As in, she could have called so many different people. Things like that happen all the time. That's happened with the band as well, and different artists. I think that's an honor. And winning so many awards, I can't count how many awards I have won. I mean, it's a blessing. I love it. I love the job. I mean, it has its good sides, it has its bad sides as well, but I'll take the good over the bad. Most embarrassing moments on air would have to be times where I'm just tongue-tied. I can't pronounce any word properly on that day, or I'm just, what's the word, and I just say something grammatically wrong. So, I mean, when that happened one time, I was like, what the heck did I just say? And just, the key is to make fun of yourself and laugh along with others at yourself. If you can't laugh at yourself, you'll be constantly embarrassed. So, I mean, I'm a human being, and there's some days that I'm just not getting it right. So those days, I just let the music play and just shut up. I don't say much. So yeah. What's up? What's up? This is The Beat 99.9. Gbemi here on the Drive Time Show. It is 21 minutes past 5 p.m. What did you do last night? I wish someone had told me when I was starting out that public holidays don't mean anything when you're in radio. This is an essential service, kind of like hospitals. So I think that that was the most difficult for me. I mean, I'd be in the studio on Christmas Day, New Year's Day, or New Year's Eve, or whatever, and friends will call me, yo, let's go to the beach. And I'm like, I can't. I'm on air, I'm working. So things like that used to bother me, but not so much now. I would advise people, younger people who are trying to get into this industry, to just remember that if you're getting into the radio industry, it should be for the love of the job and not really for the love of all the perks that you get. Because if you're not really into the job at the end of the day, those perks will not make you happy. They will not mean anything to you at the end of the day. I think that you should see it as a stepping stone for other things. When you're in this industry, when people start to hear your name gets you into, you get your foot into so many doors. You can go into advertising, for example. If you eventually leave radio, you can go into film, you can go into television, you can do whatever pretty much you want, because people, they are familiar with you or your personality or whatever, and they kind of just give you less of a hard time, I guess, if you're trying to branch out into any industry per se. You need to also know that you might miss out on certain things because the hours are weird. If you're working the morning shift, you're probably working like 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. to 10 a.m., which is weird. So if you love your sleep, which I do, yeah, so for like 2 years, I really didn't have much sleep because I used to wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning, so I'd be ready and at work for 6. In the afternoon, 11 to 4. I pretty much have done every show on the weekdays, so I did the 11 to 4 shift for about 2 years as well, and that used to mess me up because that meant that I couldn't go to the bank, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. So you need to have that in mind as well. Whoever it is that you get with, relationship-wise, needs to kind of understand your schedule. They would not understand that maybe you have to work on their birthday or you have to work on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve or whatever. I think that having a support system and people around you who understand that your job is not a hobby and it's actually a job and it's serious is very essential. In the beginning, my family didn't quite get it. They just thought I used to just go around and play with music. They didn't really understand that this is an actual career for me. So I think that would also help. So family has to understand, your significant other has to understand, and you pretty much have to be disciplined, because it's really easy to lose track of your goals and just get lost in the should I say, I don't know what word to use. You could get lost in the whole hanging out with celebrities and think this is real life, but really just have a good head on your shoulders and just try to remain grounded and just do your work and things will come to you.